Welcome back. This video is made specifically for new Ironman athletes or people that have never done one or did one with absolutely no idea what was happening and now they want to learn a little more. I will make separate videos for intermediate and advanced Ironman athletes, but this one is geared for beginner or new Ironman athletes. So if you're going to do an Ironman, you obviously need to do a lot of preparation. So this is not about the training. This is about the pacing on race day. You need to know about the cutoff times in an Ironman. The swim cutoff time for most races is 2 hours and 20 minutes. The bike cutoff for most races, but not all of them, is about 10 and a half hours. And the total race time cutoff is 17 hours. There are several that have shorter cutoffs, and there are probably a few out there that even have a mid-bike cutoff, meaning you need to reach midpoint of the bike by X hours. So you need to know the specific cutoffs for your race, especially if you're going to be close to those cutoff times. We don't want to be, in really good shape and miss finishing the race because you missed it by 4 minutes or 3 minutes. So, be aware of those cutoff times. The next thing you really need to be aware of with an Ironman race day execution is your nutrition and fluid intake. This is not going to be about nutrition, but I wanted to give you at least an idea of what you're facing. On the bike, you would want to be taking in, your starting point is 2 calories per pound per hour. And the starting point where you can start figuring this out in training is 1 calorie per pound per hour on the run. So 2 calories per hour per pound on the bike, 1 calorie per pound per hour on the run. Some people will need more, some people won't be able to tolerate that and will actually have to try and get by on a little less, but those are your starting points. Fluid, the hotter it is, the more you need. That's all I'm going to say about that for this video. So pacing wise, if you're looking at coming in right under the cutoff, that's about a 3:20 per 100 yards, 3 minutes, 20 seconds per 100 yards. So your training needs to at least meet that, if not be farther along than that. Now, pace wise, for new athletes, well, you're not going to be new at this point, but a new Ironman, first timer, easy to moderate. You don't want to swim any harder than a moderate, steady effort. Heart rate wise, that would be in the low mid zone 2 range. You don't want to go out too fast and start gasping, and you certainly don't want to have any issues on the swim. Let us stop here and say that the swim is where most new Ironman athletes have difficulty. The second spot that they have difficulty is bike mechanic issues. So those 2 things you can fix by training in open water and being well prepared to swim in a relatively crowded environment. If you're doing the first time Ironman athlete doing the swim, a strategy you can employ is to swing on the wide side of the course. So if the turns are all left hand or left shoulder turns, you can go farther to the right up to the point where there's a line of kayaks and boaters that won't let you go any further into the body of water, right? Because they're going to channel you for safety. But if you can hug that side of the course, you will have less encounters with people. Also needs to be said, you need to be very comfortable in your wetsuit if you're wearing a wetsuit. So don't let this be the first time that you're swimming a long swim in your wetsuit. You should have done several long open water swims. But your cutoff time pace is about 3 minutes and 20 seconds per 100 yards. So you need to be at that or faster. And your effort level should be easy to moderate, no harder than moderate. Now, some of you may be excellent swimmers. Okay, then you could go a little harder, provided that it's not going to blow you up for the rest of the race. In the first transition, there is no reason to take longer than 10 minutes in transition, especially, again, if we're talking about cutoff times, you need to get in and out. Take your wetsuit off, have everything else ready to go. You get on the bike and you start pedaling. It is not rocket science. I'm amazed when I see some of these transition times that are getting into the 15, 20, 30-minute range. I don't know what's happening if you're taking 30 minutes in transition, but it's not a good time to sit down and read a book of poetry, okay? Just get in and out. The bike, if you're looking at being close to the cutoff times on everything, if you're close to the swim cutoff, you get out on the bike and you're going to be close on pace. That pace is about 14 and a half miles per hour. So pace wise, you need to be riding faster than that, or at least that. Now, if you're faster on the swim, it does give you some more leeway on the bike. So you have some wiggle room if you're a better swimmer. But 14 and a half miles an hour on the bike is not lollygagging, right? So our training needs to have prepared us well enough to get to that point, and we want to be holding at least that consistently throughout. Some issues that newer athletes will run into on the bike leg is going too hard on the hills and then trying to recover on the downhills. This is where we can get into some of the more advanced stuff. And I'm linking a chart down below that shows you the intensity factor versus time and the TSS score. So those are worth looking into, especially if you're using a power meter, and understand what those numbers are. That's a way of introducing you to the concept of pace and effort on the bike. So you should know your threshold, and there are recommendations for how hard you can ride an Ironman based on your expected time. The general rule is that you could start looking at about 70% of your threshold, meaning if your functional threshold power is 200, you could start riding at about 140 of watts. But if you're going to be 6 hours, 6.5 hours, 7 hours, then you need to be under that 70%. The farther away you are from, a 6-hour ride, the lower your number needs to be. So potentially you could be out there and you could be riding at 62, 63% of your functional threshold power. Anyway, take a look at that chart and, read up on what all that means. It's very helpful. Effort-wise, unless you're coming into the last 20 miles and you're very close to the cutoff, your effort should not be any harder than moderate. That's like a middle of zone 2 if you're looking at heart rates. And the reason is we still have to run. So you don't want to blow yourself up on the bike and not be able to run, or you're forced into a long walk, which could put you, again, running into cutoff time issues. So we need to be real cognizant of how hard we're going. This is another good reason to have a power meter, because there's something called the variability index that your pedals can record exactly how hard you're riding and how much you're varying throughout the ride. And you don't want that number to really be any higher than 1.05 in an Ironman. And ideally, it's closer to 1.0, meaning there's almost no difference in how hard you ride throughout the entire ride. So we're not sprinting to catch up with somebody and then resting and then sprinting up a hill and then resting. We're just going a nice, consistent pace throughout the entire thing. You do need to, stop and get new water bottles, or stop and get a snack, or you're going to have to go to the bathroom in all probability. It would be great if you learn how to go to the bathroom on the bike, but it's definitely a skill. And if you don't master that one, I'm not going to be offended. So that 10.5-hour bike time, some of them a little faster than that. And then we're on to the run. Now, run pacing, again, you've heard me say easy, moderate a couple of times here, but again, we should not be going any harder than like moderate, steady effort, even if you're a tremendous runner, because you're coming off of 8, 9, 10 hours of exercise before you even get to this marathon. If we push it a little too hard, I give you one guess what's going to happen. You are going to fall apart towards the end of the run. So our goal is to be able to hold it together at least most of the way through the finish. So pacing wise, if we're close to the cutoff times, now I think we're at about a 14-minute mile to make the final 17-hour cutoff time. So your run pace needs to be 14 minutes or faster. So that can be, a 10, 11, 12-minute mile, which is, not the slowest thing in the world, but it's not super quick either. And include walk breaks through the nutrition areas, because it's so important that you stay on top of hydration and nutrition. It is my advice for almost every level of athlete, except the fastest people who can get through there and drink and eat, that take 20, 30, 45 seconds to get a full cup of water or sports drink or Coca-Cola, as well as the nutrition you need along the way with gels and bananas and goos and everything like that. So pacing wise, our heart rate may have drifted upwards throughout the race, but at this point you're going to be experiencing a lot of heart rate fatigue where it could be hard for that rate to even stay up. So your heart rate may be high, it may be a little low. And if that's the case, then you're just going to want to try and keep on your pace. Know that, okay, I'm going 11-minute mile, and then I have time to walk, 30 or 40 seconds through each transition, each nutrition area. So everything is easy moderate. Your training needs to have prepared you for that. Your swimming, you need to have swum at least once or twice, a couple miles in an open water body. On the bike, you need to have done at least a couple of 80 to 100 mile bike rides. And on the run, you don't have to run 26 miles in training. That is a good way to hurt yourself. But you need to have done at least a couple of 15 to 18 mile runs in training. Those are kind of your minimum levels to get to the race with a good chance of finishing. So if you feel like this was too basic for you, in a couple of weeks I'll have a intermediate level, which is for people that are repeating an Ironman and now they have some time goals and some, real concrete goals that they want to reach. And a few more weeks after that, I'll make a more advanced one for you guys that are looking for world championship spots or podium finishes. This video is something else. This is us. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want. Any subject matter you want me to hit on. See you next time.